What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode 41, and Happy New Year's to everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. I kept saying a bunch of stuff about, it's not New Year's, it's New Year. Don't put an S on it, but I don't give a shit. Let's not start 2022 with being Mr. Know-It-Alls, all right? Let's not start 2022 with having to be the most intelligent person in the room. If you tell me Happy New Year's, I don't give a shit. Don't give a rat's ass. Happy New Year, Happy New Year's. Don't care. Come on in, bring it in. Give me that fucking Omicron. Bring it in tight, man, for a hug. Don't care about that, but Happy New Year to everybody out there. It is officially 2022. It is Saturday, January 1st. Now you're probably wondering what the hell you're doing recording on a Saturday. You're supposed to come out Wednesday, Friday, Monday. Well, if you noticed, video uploaded yesterday on Friday. I said it was Wednesday. Watching it saying, well, today's Friday. It's definitely not Wednesday. I'm a little behind. This new year got me a little messed up. Days have been thrown off a little bit. I had a little bit of trouble uploading that Wednesday video. Wasn't able to upload it till Friday, and then I wasn't able to record on Friday because it's New Year's Eve. We had to go to my son's grandma's house with the ex and all the lovely family and all that shit. So wasn't able to record. Wasn't able to get that done. But it is Saturday night right now. It is currently 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff, it is probably Saturday night. It'll be uploaded Saturday night on there. For YouTube, this video that we're watching, that's probably not going to come out till tomorrow morning, which will be Sunday, which I really don't want it to get it out too late. So I'm trying to get it posted, hopefully get it uploaded by around noon before the games. If I could get it done maybe 10, 11 a.m. Central Times before the games start, because obviously we're going to take a deep dive into Week 17 in the NFL today. That we're going to have game picks. I already have the game picks written down, so I don't want you guys to be like, oh, he waited till after the games are over and try to pretend like he was right. No. I got the game picks picked down. I already had them written down. The lines might be a little off because these were lines that I took a gander at on Thursday night or Friday morning. I looked at these lines and I picked from there. So the lines may have moved, may have shifted, but these are according to Friday morning's lines. But thank you guys again for being here. Like always, like, subscribe, hit the alert button, be a friend, tell a friend, let everybody know what's going on. The channel, Jesus Christ, the channel is growing a little bit. Slowly but surely, the channel is growing, man. Subscribers are going up, the views are going up, and I can't thank you guys enough. Please be a friend, tell a friend, share this with somebody, bring them over if they love the sports world, especially basketball, football, and mixed martial arts. Those are the specialties here. But like I said, new year, man. New year, not a whole lot of resolutions. Resolutions for me are kind of weird. I don't like when it's like, oh, we're going to dive deep into our souls and reflect on what we could be and how different we can be with ourselves, or how different we can act. Like, listen, man, if you're not a good person and you need the new year to hit to decide to be a good person, you're probably not going to be a good person next year either. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, hey, Tom, what's your New Year's resolution? Well, I'm just going to decide to stop being racist this year. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're probably going to still be racist, Tom. So not really into the New Year's resolution. There's some things that you could work on. I'm into more of the goal setting. If you're going to set goals, my goals for 2022 is obviously to grow this podcast, to grow this channel, and get to where I want to get to, man. I want to work extremely hard over this next year and try to make it grow into something that we can be proud of, man. And I say we because you're definitely part of it. If you're watching this, if you watch every video, if you're watching every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or in this case, Sunday morning, you guys are a big part of it, man. So thank you guys so much. And I just want to work my butt off and have you guys, the viewers, be able to see it and be like, holy crap. Like, I remember when he didn't have anybody watching this channel, anybody listening to the podcast, and now all of a sudden we turn it into something that can be bragged about. But besides that, the only changes that are happening this new year, man, is freaking YouTube is canceled in the household. And I know you're probably wondering, like, well, you're on YouTube. No, I'm talking about YouTube for children is out the house. My little one is not allowed to watch it anymore. I deleted it on anything he has, his Xbox, his Nintendo Switch. He got a new Nintendo Switch for Christmas. He doesn't have YouTube on anything. The reason for that is I don't know what, like, I upload videos on YouTube. I have to click a button that says whether this video is for children or not. And it's not, obviously, this one. whoever's clicking 4 kids, what type of, who's checking these? Who's watching what they're bringing in? Like, who's doing it? Who's, making sure that the things that are for kids are kid appropriate. I'm in there. He's watching YouTube. He's playing with his stuff, doing his thing. No big deal. I'm not one of those crazy parents. Like, no, my son's not going to watch YouTube or play video games. He's going to be on the fucking cello 5 hours a day. No, have fun, man. You want to watch something cool. He's watching stuff that has planets and some educational stuff. Awesome, dude. Play with your toys, learn about planets. I love it. Let's do it. All of a sudden, the suggested videos that it just randomly goes to, he's watching something, some clip from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or some, children type stuff, some educational stuff. And then all of a sudden, it just does the autoplay to the next thing. And then all of a sudden there's, SpongeBob talking about, oh, fuck that hoe. And I'm like, what? Immediately scrambling, trying to grab his controller. He's, Daddy, why is SpongeBob cussing? I don't know. So I have to change it. I have to move the channel, change it to a different video. And then, okay, we're back on track. We're back to a video that's age appropriate, No more SpongeBob cussing his life away. We're back to something cool. And then sure enough, that video ends. And then the video of 2 kids, not even kids. They're 2 teenagers. Look like they're 19 years old. All the brain cells are gone. They're acting like children. They're acting like toddlers. And I'm like, I don't want you acting like them or behaving like, I don't know what the hell this is, man. So YouTube for him, gone, out. YouTube's gone. On the downside, with YouTube gone, whole lot of Disney Plus coming his way. And man, I can't get the freaking songs from Encanto out of my head. We don't talk about Bruno, no, all day long. We've seen Encanto 5-6 times. I didn't even know it was out on Disney Plus till 2 days ago, and we've seen it 5-6 times. Encanto, right here, just fucking drilled in there. I can't get Encanto out of my head. So, awesome stuff, man. But it's been a great year. Year with a lot of ups and downs. I know a lot of people were dealing with a lot of stuff, man. If you lost family members, I feel for you, man. My heart goes out to you for sure. Anybody that has been dealing with mental health issues, it is not a game at all. If you know me personally or if you know how to get in touch with me, you can always send me a DM on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere else if you're dealing with mental health issues. I've had my fair share of battles as well. It is not a shot at your manliness, no matter what people say. I know women suffer from a lot of anxiety and depression as well, but I want to speak to guys mainly because I am a man. I know how to deal with some of that stuff, but it's not a shot at your manliness, man. You're not less of a man if you reach out and say that you need help and you need to talk to somebody, because it helps. It really, really, really helps. And it could put you in a better place, and it puts you in this like mindset that you really don't. You start understanding what's in your control and what's not in your control. And you start understanding when things happen to you, they're just delays, right? They're there to test how you react from it. And it's not something else that's going to define your life, or it's not going to affect you on a permanent scale. Nothing can affect you permanently. And, takes a lot to start learning that, man, and to get that through. So if you guys are going through anything, please hit my line, man. You can even comment in the comments below, man. I'll get to you. DM me on Twitter, on Instagram, anything at all. Please don't hold stuff in. Lost a family member recently. So, please don't keep stuff in. Reach out to me, reach out to a loved one, reach out to a stranger. Please reach out to a professional, and let's get the help, man. Let's become better versions of ourselves in 2022. Let's just make sure that we are loving each other more importantly than anything else, man. Just make sure that we are supporting each other. If anybody knows me, man, that's one thing I try to do like crazy, is support the hell out of people, man. If you're an account on Instagram, or if you have a YouTube page or channel, I'm going to support the hell out of you, man. I just want to see everybody I want to know your dreams, and I want to see them come true. But anyway, off from that nonsense. It's not what we're about. It's not what this channel is. It's not what this podcast is. We are Going to talk about football today, baby, as Football Sunday approaches tomorrow. I want to hit on the college football playoffs that just happened yesterday. I saw both games. It was a bad look. It was a terrible look on for college football in general. The last thing we need, right? The last thing we need from this system, this playoff system we have, is for the two best teams, the two teams that we think is best. And yes, I get it. You're going to say, well, Michigan was ranked number 2, not Georgia. It was all semantics, man. Like, okay, cool, Michigan was ranked number 2. We knew who the best two teams were in college football. The best two teams played in the SEC championship. Those were the best two teams. Alabama was by far the best team all year long until they lost. Georgia was the best team all year long until they lost to Alabama. But those are the two best teams. And the last thing we need is for the two best teams to go out and just dog walk the other two teams. It's a terrible showing. Cincinnati, though they put up a fight, I think Cincinnati was prepared. I think they were ready. I think they did what they could. They just don't have the guys in the trenches. When you just see the difference between the front sevens and the O-line, like, no matter if you're Cincinnati or any of these other schools, the Boise States of the world, when they're really good, the year that UCF was really good, there was a year a while back where North Carolina started off like 12-0 or 13-0. Those schools, those teams will always have guys on the outside. You can find some speed on the outside. You can find a running back. You can even find yourself a quarterback that is really, really good, as Desmond Ridder is, I think, still a really good quarterback. In my opinion, I have him second in my draft class. I have him behind Kenny Pickett. So you can have a quarterback, you can have a running back or some receivers that can at least hang with those big dogs. When you start getting into that front seven, when you start getting into the offensive line, that's where it just completely changes for everybody. Because most teams don't have, especially like these Cincinnatis and these teams, there's not a whole bunch of NFL-worthy offensive linemen in the world. There's just not, and a lot of it has to come from like coaching. You know what I mean? Coaching in general, you don't get really good offensive and defensive line coaches in the middle school or high school departments. But you start getting that when you're in, when you start getting that in college. You don't get that till the pros. But you get that for receivers, you get that from running backs. And, if you're an athlete, if you want to be a great player, you're studying the NFL players. You're studying guys. When you're at a young age, you're 12, 13, you want to be like Russell Wilson. You want to be like DeAndre Hopkins. You want to be like Christian McCaffrey. Like, you have guys to idolize and mimic. There's not a 12-year-old out there that's like, let me really dive into the techniques of Quentin Nelson and see how I can improve as a left guard. Like, nobody's, So that's where the big differences are, and you see it in the trenches. Alabama came out the first drive of the game and just ran the ball down their throats. Clearly, you're going to have to change your game plan up. And then on the other side, if you're a team that just can't run the ball, especially in between the tackles like Cincinnati could not, they were able to get a couple good runs later in the game when it was already over and Alabama was, playing too deep and just making sure they weren't giving up any big shots. Like, sure, you could have your 6-yard, 7-yard runs now. But that's the biggest difference, man, is right there in the trenches. And they showed it. And once again, Bama, Georgia, I said it all along. Like, that's the SEC championship to me was the college football championship. And now we're going to get a rematch. We're going to get a rematch of that game. I hope it goes differently. I hope Alabama doesn't just absolutely stomp them out. That'd be terrible if we just had 3, blowout games in the playoffs for college football this year. So I hope Georgia can make it a game. I really do, but Cincinnati had absolutely no chance in that one. Michigan stood absolutely no chance in that one. Just from the opening drive of both games, it was just clear, like, oh, Georgia's going to be able to do whatever they want. Oh, Bama is going to be able to do whatever they want in this game. And it wasn't close. Before the game, my crazy dad called me and was like, hey, what do you think? And I was like, I think Bama's going to win by 20, and I think Georgia's going to win by 10. And he was like, what? He's like, those are crazy spreads. I was like, I think they're that much better. I thought Michigan would keep it a little bit closer. I mean, Cincinnati put up more of a fight than Michigan, so hats off to Cincinnati. A great season, but it's tough because now, the college football playoffs, it's like, all right, well, what do we do? Or where do we go from here? You know what I mean? Everyone's talking about this expansion and 6 teams, 8 teams, 16-team playoffs. It's like, if the 4 seed if the fourth best team in the nation gets dog walked by the number one team, you think the 16th team is going to do anything? It's like, whoa, we want to give them those opportunities and it'll be fun, it'll be cool. It was just a bad look for the people who are protesting it. Now, I was originally protesting it, especially a couple years ago. When we switched to it, I was like, man, it's just so many times the number one and number two, those are the best teams, man. Just let them play it out. Now I am at that point where I'm like, hey, better football is better football. If Alabama gets to win by 30 points all the way to the national championship, if they have to play 3 playoff games, and they just beat the dog shit out of everybody and then go to the national championship, oh well, let it happen. At least we get more football. That's where I'm at now. But if you are somebody, or if you have to hear from the people that are against it, that are just like, dude, stop with the nonsense. These guys aren't good enough to play or to win a national championship. They'll never do it. They have another legitimate example from this playoff here. But like I said, hopefully Georgia and Alabama is a good game. I personally have Alabama in that one. I hope it's different, man. I really do. I hope Georgia could go out there and get something done. I'd be really happy for the players on Georgia, man. Be really happy for Kirby Smart and those boys. I think they deserve it. But I think Alabama is going to win that game. It's hard to just let Nick Saban destroy you. And I think you're going to come back with adjustments and beat him in the game that he's already dominated you in. And I like Alabama, man. I like their ability. I like Bryce Young a lot more than I like Bennett. I just like the quarterback battle way more for Alabama side. So that's where I think that's going to happen, man. I got Bama in that one, but I'm still interested to see how that one plays out. But we're going to jump over from college NFL time before we dive into Week 17 in the NFL. Really quick, just wanted to get into the NFL update for this week and get to some of the reports. Adam Schefter had tweeted, players out Sunday include Kirk Cousins, Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, William Jackson, Shaq Barrett, James O'Shaughnessy, Nelson Aguilar, John Ross, Kadarius Toney, Stephon Gilmore, Traquan Smith, Teddy Bridgewater, Jerry Jeudy, and Bradley Chubb. So some notable names there. The biggest one for me is Kirk Cousins, obviously right at the top. A team that is really trying to get a run at the playoffs. They still have hope. They still have life. But with Kirk Cousins gone, and they're playing in Green Bay, in Lambeau Field, against the man, Aaron Rodgers, it is going to be really, really hard to imagine how the Vikings somehow come away with that game. So not thrilled about Minnesota's chances, not thrilled about the opportunity for Minnesota to play without Kirk. They're going to start Mannion over the rookie that they have in Kellen Mond, which was a little surprising to me. I know Mond does a little bit more things with his legs. I thought maybe you give a rookie a shot because he gives you a different game plan. Like, with Sean Mannion, you kind of have the same game plan you have with Kirk Cousins, right? It's kind of the same game plan. Mannion doesn't do anything completely different from Kirk Cousins. So I can see why Minnesota on that side of it is like, hey, well, let's play a guy that's going to keep us playing the way we want to play. But at the same time, why not throw somebody in there that gives you a completely different look that Green Bay hasn't prepared for and isn't going to game plan for? You put Kellen Mond out there, run some read options, get the pocket moving, let him try to use his legs and see what happens. I don't like their chances either way. Either way, they're losing this game. But maybe you catch them off guard is my thought process. But Kirk Cousins out, huge loss for Minnesota. I think Green Bay is going to, go ahead and put the nail in the coffin for them. But tough loss there. Julio Jones stays on the COVID-19 list for the Titans. He will not play tomorrow. That is another report coming in. So Julio Jones, another tough one out for the Titans, who just cannot have their offensive weapons together for a game, it seems like, ever. Ian Rappaport tweeted that Coach Bruce Arians will coach tomorrow. So Bruce Arians will be there for the Jets game for Tampa Bay. So good news for them. Not too many teams have been affected with their head coach out, man. The few times that we've seen it, the teams with their head coach that have been out have actually, I think they have a winning record. I know Mike McCarthy was out for a game. Dan Quinn was there and they won. They took care of business. So it hasn't really been too effective, right? When you have a game plan, we have a system in place and everybody kind of knows what's doing. Like the coaching staff, like your head coach is really there for the every single day process. They're not going to really affect the game itself, right? They affect it because of the culture that they put in and the system that they're running and the way that they're coaching and the way that they're leading and all that good stuff. They're immensely important. They have all the importance in the world. But when it comes to the actual game itself, when it comes to while the game is happening live, a coach isn't going to really add a bunch of wins and losses for you, like in the moment, if you know what I mean, right? I'm not saying if you take away Bill Belichick from the Patriots, they still have 9 wins. Like, no, not at all. But I'm saying if Bill Belichick is there for every single week and every single practice and every single meeting and he's setting the culture, but then he has to miss a couple games, like for the actual game itself, unless you have somebody that just royally fucks up in situational outcomes, in a in situational football, if they fuck up in a situation and it's tight, they make a bad challenge or they decide to go for it on a 4th down that really screws you over, like something like that. But head coach does that enough anyway. Other reports out, Colts officially activated Carson Wentz from the reserve list. We knew Carson Wentz was going to play when they switched the time frame from 10 days to 5 days of being quarantined from getting COVID. Carson Wentz is not vaccinated, but does it matter whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated? You would have to quarantine for 10 days. Now they switch it to 5. Obviously, if you were vaccinated, you can produce 2 negative tests and still get you to play. Nobody has been able to do that, so it still has been the 10 or 5, or the 10 days now switched to 5. So good on for Carson Wentz. Good on for the Colts because they needed this win. They still need to try to stay on top of the division or try to get a home field advantage. And there's still a possibility that, if they lose the next 2 games, they cannot make the playoffs. So they really needed Carson Wentz for this one. So really good look for them. Good news for them there. Chiefs ruled out Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's not going to be playing. Added Jerick McKinnon to the 53-man roster. Yada, yada, yada. That's basically it. So that's it for the NFL update, man. Those are the news, who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and it's going to help you for some of these picks. If you guys are betting people or if you just weren't aware of some of the guys that were going to be in or out of the lineups. But Week 17 coming up. First game I want to look at is the Rams and the Ravens. Lamar possibly will be activated. He might play in that game. But if not, Tyler Huntley is back, and he would start if Lamar Jackson can't go. I know they said Lamar might be a game-time decision. Haven't seen any update on him as of yet to see whether Lamar is going to play or not. But like I said, at the very least, they do get Tyler Huntley back, which would be big for them. Tyler Huntley, again, you want Lamar back, but at least Tyler Huntley's an upgrade from what you had last time out. And the Rams still need this win to stay on top of the NFC West and play at home. Things aren't safe for the Rams right now. They were able to take the lead thanks to the Cardinals kind of falling off a cliff and losing 3 in a row. But now that the Rams have that lead, this is a game that's not going to be easy for them. Especially if Lamar could play. This is not an easy win. It's in Baltimore. It's going to be tough. You're taking an LA team, taking them to Baltimore to play in some cold weather. Rams need to be good, man. And importantly for Matthew Stafford, the questions continue to swirl about Matthew Stafford about like, hey, the question in Detroit was like, even the times they did get to the playoffs, Matthew Stafford didn't look particularly well. So for Matthew Stafford, it's important for you to get on track, get this win, look good doing it. At least don't have 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions in this game. Get a good win where you look clean, the offense looks clean, and you're starting to head into the playoffs, and you keep that top seed in the NFC West, and you keep a home field game. You get to play at home for the first round of the playoffs. That would be giant. And they still have a chance to even move up the leaderboards into the number 2 seed. If Tampa Bay loses, if the Cowboys lose, they can still jump all the way up to number 2. So the Rams still have a lot to play for here. Chiefs, Bengals. Bengals are in really good shape right now. I just mentioned the Ravens. They have a really tough game coming up. So the Bengals have a really good shot to stay on top of that AFC North division. They could lose this week and still win the division. Like I said, because of the Ravens and the Steelers also have a tough matchup this week as well that I'll get into. But even for the Bengals, yes, it's a tough game. You're playing against a hot Chiefs team. But even if the Bengals lose, they can still stay on top of the NFC North. I think they will lose. But even if they do, I still predict that they'll stay on top. I really don't see the Ravens beating the Rams. And then, the Steelers and Browns are a few games away from the Bengals. So Not a huge moment for the Bengals. It's not like a must-win scenario for them, but this is a really important game, man. It could be a massive confidence boost for the Bengals getting ready to get into the playoffs if they are able to play a really competitive game and possibly beat Kansas City. They're playing in Cincinnati, so it's not, they don't have to worry about playing in Arrowhead Stadium, so that's going to be some type of help. But if they can beat them, or if they can play them competitively enough and show and prove to themselves in that locker room, like, hey, man, we can go. This isn't just a team with a good record. We're a good team. And on the flip side, how do you feel going into the playoffs when you play against the number one team in the division, or the number one team in the conference, and they smack you around? If the Chiefs go into Cincinnati and just stomp Cincinnati out, I don't know how much confidence Cincinnati has going into the playoffs, into the wild card weekend, and knowing like, damn, we just played against the guys at the number one seed and we got smacked. So it's a huge confidence booster for them, man, especially because it's a possible playoff matchup. They win their first game, they would probably play the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's a huge game for the Bengals to kind of prove something, not just to everybody watching, not just the viewers, but prove something to themselves. I think that locker room has something. I think they're up for this game. I think to them, this is probably the biggest game of the season because they're like, hey, we're the division leader. We have a pretty good, chance to finish off this division, right? We play against the Chiefs, but the rest of our guys have some tough games coming up. We can win the division, and what better way to win the division than beating the number one team in the conference as well? The Bengals have to be up. I mean, there's definitely no question in the world that the players are going to be pumped. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere for Cincinnati. Really interested to see how that game goes, man. I'm going to really I don't like to go game by game. I don't like to swing, week by week and, this team's dead on week 3. And then, this team actually looks great on week 4. And then week 5, I'm like, oh, man, they might be Super Bowl champions. Week 6, oh, no, never mind. They stuck. They are who we thought they were. Like, that's not who I am. I don't like to swing all crazy like that, man. I like to stick with reason, stick with what I watch. But this game against the Chiefs, man, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to pull a lot from it. Like, there's probably going to be a big overreaction on Monday, depending on how Cincinnati plays against Kansas City. If Cincinnati comes out and gets stomped out and just shows that they're nowhere near the level of Kansas City right now, then I'm going to say, hey, Cincy, you're probably a one and done. You're probably getting into the playoffs, losing that first game, and you're out. I'm not going to have high hopes. But if they come in, right, they're at home, but if they come in and beat Kansas City or play them extremely tough, present some real problems to them, and especially do well offensively, because Kansas City's defense has looked very much improved over the last 6 weeks. Coach Spagnuolo has been doing an outstanding job, just kind of an old school coach that gives a lot of these young OCs fits, man, these young play callers. We saw what he did to Kellen Moore. We saw what he did to Matt LaFleur. Granted, no Aaron Rodgers, right? They were playing with Jordan Love that game. But we saw the issues he gave those guys when you have a kind of younger, it's more about scheme than matchup type of coach. Coach Spagnuolo will give them some issues with that defense. So really interested to see how both teams are. And like I said, a humongous confidence booster if Cincinnati can really take it to Kansas City and possibly beat them. Next, huge game, Dolphins in Tennessee against the Titans. Dolphins, one of many teams in AFC right now to be 8-7. There's a bunch of teams that are sitting in that 8-7 spot. Dolphins are one of them. They are now winners of 7 straight games, if I'm not mistaken. They were 1-7. Now they're 8-7, so 7 straight wins in a row for Miami. And they can prove that they're ready with this game. This is a prove yourself game, right? This isn't the Jets. This isn't Carolina. This isn't the Giants. This isn't Ian Book. Like, this is a legit team in the Tennessee Titans. Again, do they have Julio Jones? No. Is A.J. Brown still banged up? Yes. Do they have Derrick Henry? No. No, this isn't the Titans at full force, but the Titans at full force. The Titans are full force. Everyone will be saying them and the Chiefs. Like, let's be real. If the Titans were at full force, everyone would say it's Kansas City and it's Tennessee, and everyone else is a few steps away. So, no, it's not the Titans at full force, but this is still a playoff team, a legit playoff team here in Tennessee. And this is your chance, if you're the Dolphins, to really show, like, dude, we could play. We could play with the big dogs. We can beat a playoff team, and by doing that, by beating Tennessee, you prove we can win in the first round. We can move on. We can advance in the playoffs. Because right now, I think nobody's a believer that Miami can do so. I don't think anybody truly believes because of the record. Because of the schedule, not the record. But despite the record, despite the 7 wins in a row, because of who they've beaten, I don't think anybody's buying. I don't think anybody's buying that Miami can win in the playoffs. This game could change people's opinions. And for Tennessee, continue to be resilient. You have a team that's coming in hot, 7-game win streak. Regardless of who they played, they still won 7 games. You've heard me every single time we talk about the NFL. I always say the same thing. Winning in the NFL is not easy. I don't care who you play. It's not easy to win. So if you win 7 straight games, even if you beat the bad teams, that shows you're not a bad team. It's impossible. Bad teams don't win 7 straight games, even if they play other bad teams. Good teams beat bad teams. If you're beating bad teams, then that makes you a good team. Does it make you an elite team? Does it make you championship contenders? Does it make you legitimate threats? That we don't know. We have to see how you perform against other playoff caliber teams, other winning teams. But you don't take anything away from them. It's not like the Dolphins are a bad team because they beat the Giants or Carolina. And for Tennessee, like I said, just keep being resilient, man. 7 straight games. The Dolphins coming into your home. You don't have Julio Jones. You still don't have Derrick Henry back. You're still full of injuries. But you proved last week, huge win against San Francisco. Do it again. You tell me you beat San Francisco and Miami back-to-back weeks without your star players, knowing that you still could possibly get both of them back? Think about this, their first game in the playoffs. Their first game in the playoffs for Tennessee could be one of their very few games this whole entire season where they have Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry in the lineup. So for Tennessee, it's just, man, by any means necessary, let's just keep being resilient. Let's just keep showing the fight, and let's some way, somehow come out with another victory. Doesn't have to be pretty. It could be as ugly as possible. We don't care what Tannehill looks like. We don't care how we win this game, whether it's 10-6, whether it's 40-35. We don't care. If we could just come out with another win and take one more step forward to try to get healthy with only a few weeks left before the playoffs start. And shout out for Mike Vrabel, man. I don't think Mike Vrabel gets enough flowers. I think people realize that Mike Vrabel's a really good head coach. But Jesus, man. 11, let's think about it. They could possibly win 11 or 12 games this season with all those injuries that I mentioned. Give me another team, another coach that loses both of their star receivers, loses the guy who their offense runs through, right? In this case, Derrick Henry, and still some way comes out with possibly 11 or 12 wins. That's nuts. Mike Vrabel deserves all the credit in the world. When you see this team, when you see the way they talk, when you see the way they play, when you see the way they take the field, it's evident this dude is a culture setter. He sets the tone and he builds a really good culture in that locker room. The times are going to be tough for a long time with Mike Vrabel, I promise you. As long as Mike Vrabel's in Tennessee, they're going to be a tough team. Do I predict a bunch of championships, a bunch of Super Bowls? No, but a tough team. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the year with, or the years where Rex Ryan was with the Jets, right? The Jets got to AFC Championship, I believe, 2 times behind Mark Sanchez, and Mark Sanchez was kind of Tannehill-y, where sometimes you see him through a stretch of games or at moments where everyone's like, this guy's actually pretty good, man. This dude's actually pretty damn good. He could take a team to a Super Bowl. He could take this team to a Super Bowl. And then sometimes in some stretches, you're like, man, they're just a better quarterback away. They need a little bit better quarterback play to really be that team. That's kind of how the Tennessee Titans remind me. That's what the Tennessee Titans remind me of, is that old Rex Ryan Jets football team. Different, right? Tennessee definitely doesn't have the defense that the Jets do, and Tennessee's offense is a little more explosive, a lot more explosive than the Jets were at that time. But I'm talking about just the culture and the way the team buys into the coach. People didn't hate Rex Ryan, man. Rex Ryan was a player coach. Everyone was on his side. He would talk loud. He would be in their face, similar to Vrabel. Vrabel will come out with the team and go stomp on your logo. They'll come take the field. They'll be right in your face, letting you know, hey, man, all that respect stuff, cool. We're here to stomp you. We're here to punch you in the mouth. Like, that's what we're here for. We don't have to fake and pretend anything else. Like, you know what we're here for. We know what you're here for. Let's see what's popping. So, big shout out. I love Mike Vrabel, man. Raiders, Colts, another big game. Still magic left. Still magic left for Derek Carr and Rich Bisaccia. Still some magic left for the Raiders. They're not dead yet. Again, another team at that 8-7. I said Miami was. The Raiders are another team sitting at 8-7 right now. If they lose this week, though, could be the end. If they lose this week, there's, like I said, because of how many teams are at 8-7, they can't afford a loss. They just absolutely cannot. And Derek Carr, like I said, man, deserves a lot of credit. I talked about Mike Vrabel and how much credit he deserves from a player standpoint, from a quarterback standpoint. Derek Carr, all the credit in the world. Here's one thing. Because I didn't see an extension for Derek Carr, because of the issues he had, because of where the Raiders are so up in the air, they don't have a head coach for the future. They may not have a GM for the future. They didn't lock up Derek Carr, so therefore they don't have right now a quarterback for the future. There's so many changes that are going to happen in Vegas. I can see Derek Carr moving on. I could see him saying, you know what, even if you do offer me something, if they would have offered him something big, it would have already happened. So if I'm Derek Carr, he's probably going to be looking for something else in free agency. He's at least going to, at the very least, test free agency out and see what's out there. One place I would love for Derek Carr to go is with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I would love to see Derek Carr in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin. Yes, they don't have a great offensive line, but they have Najee Harris. They have some receivers that can make some plays. They have some guys that can do some things, and I really would love to see what happens when you put Derek Carr with a coach that can give him the type of leadership that he deserves, man. That type of mentorship that Derek Carr has never gotten. Derek Carr throughout his entire career has never had a coach that he could rely on and that could be a mentor to him. Even when Gruden was there for the few years, there was always rumors about Gruden doesn't like him. Gruden just doesn't like Derek Carr. He's not a believer in him. He wants to do it with a different quarterback. He wants to go out and find his own guy and do it that way. But Derek Carr's been solid the whole time. The whole time, if you remember Derek Carr's, I want to say it was like his second year in the league, maybe third. There was a year where the Raiders were at one point in the season, they were the number one team in the AFC. And everyone kept talking about the Raiders' offensive line that year, about them being the best offensive line in football. And their offense was great. Derek Carr was great. He was spectacular, and they looked really, really good. And then towards the end of the year, right before the playoffs, Derek Carr got hurt. He was out. They lost, the remaining games they had of the season, lost all of them, got into the playoffs, had to play backup, ended up losing that game as well. But Derek Carr has had some solid seasons, dude, and this is one of them. Derek Carr, look at what that team has been through. Between John Gruden, your first round draft pick, Henry Ruggs, will never probably play football again. And then you have a corner out here threatening to shoot people on IG Live. You have a interim coach and Rich Bisaccia come in. You don't really have a coordinator that's sought after by everybody. But yet somehow you're 8-7. Somehow you're a winning football team. There's no reason the Raiders should have a winning record right now. Derek Carr deserves so much freaking credit, man. And I think a team like Pittsburgh would benefit so much, man. I think him and Tomlin, to me, would be a match made in heaven. I would love to see Carr in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin. Please let that happen. Like I said, Carson Wentz going to play in that game, so big time win. For the Colts, Darius Leonard's going to be back for that game. And it's a tough game for Vegas. I'm not going to lie. With Darius Leonard, with Carson Wentz, with those guys ready to rock, Darius Leonard is a huge boost to that defense. Anybody that knows that Darius Leonard is the leader, he is a vocal leader. You could watch Hard Knocks and see how much this dude means to that defense. Even veteran guys like DeForest Buckner still listen, and you can see that they respect and listen to what Darius Leonard calls and what he says. It really is his defense, man. He runs that defense for sure. So really, really tough game for Las Vegas, but I'm rooting for him. I really am. Derek Carr has become one of my favorite players this year. Just the resilience of him and the way he's handled everything between the John Gruden stuff, how he responded to that whether it was responded to the media, responded by his play on the field, responded by his just day in, day out actions in the locker room, how he responded to the Henry Ruggs situation. Like, these are tough things to have to deal with, and he's responded to all of them as a professional and then played pretty well through all of that. Derek Carr deserves a lot more credit than people are giving him, man. And if he takes off, I think it's a big mistake from Vegas. I think Vegas next year is going to be the team we thought they would be when John Gruden left. Like, when John Gruden got fired, everyone thought the Raiders were going to be tragic and fall apart. If they don't re-sign Derek Carr, and they obviously, if they bring in like an Aaron Rodgers or something, that's different. But if they just simply don't re-sign Derek Carr and they try to look for, somebody in that draft, somebody, a rookie to come in, they bring in a Corral, or they bring in a Howell, or they bring in, even a Ritter or something like that, then they're going to have the season we expect them to have. Then it's going to be this team's terrible type of look. I promise you, like, to me, letting go of Derek Carr would be a mistake. But it's a mistake that I hope they make, because I hope Derek Carr gets to go somewhere that he can really, really shine and people can start giving him credit for, because he deserves it. Philly in Washington, the Eagles go over to Washington. Eagles are sitting pretty right now. They're 8-7 in the NFC. Second in the NFC East behind Dallas. And they take on a wounded Washington team, man. Not just wounded physically, but wounded mentally. They have a lot of guys out. They're still a banged up team, but they're also mentally beat down. Just got demolished by Dallas last week. It's tough to imagine that Washington's going to be able to scrape themselves off and come back and say, hey, let's try. There's still a slight chance, right? Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance. There's still a slight chance for Washington to make the playoffs, but they'd have to win out. They would have to win both of their remaining games. And you got Philly, who has been pretty hot, man. At the end of the day, you talk about winning streaks. They're on one. Jalen Hurts has looked good last week. Even when he was out, they ended up getting a win with Gardner Minshew. They're running the ball effectively. Nick Sirianni's finally realized, like, dude, we have a quarterback that is a threat on the outside, and we have an offensive line that is very capable of moving bodies and being able to run inside the tackles with Sanders or whoever it is. Their running game has been prolific, and because of that, their offense has finally looked the way we think their offense would look all season long, which is, hey, they should be a pretty high-scoring defense. And high-scoring offense, and defensively, they still have a really good front seven. Fletcher Cox is still a dog. They still have guys there that can play. Philly's a good team, man. Philly's a pretty good team. This is a really good team. They can't go out there and lose to Washington, though. Like, they have to. This is a very, very. I mean, all these games here leading up for Philly are extremely important. But, like, if they win this game, I think that settles it. That'll put them into the playoffs. Because I just don't see another team. Obviously, San Francisco would be another team that kind of sitting around the 6th spot. But I don't see another team really competing with them in that 7th seed. I said it might be Minnesota, but like I said, no Kirk Cousins, and they got Green Bay coming up, and talk about that game in a little bit. But because of the remaining schedule for the rest of these teams and the injuries to the rest of these teams, like, the other teams are the Falcons and the Saints. Like, yeah, Philly's sitting pretty, man. If they win this game, I think that'll put their stamp on it. That'll finish it off, and they'll be in the playoffs. Even if they lose to Dallas at the end of the season, it wouldn't really impact them too much. They just have to win this game. If they lose this one, oh, man, Philly fans are going to go nuts if they lose this game against Washington. If they lose this Washington, then Dallas basically becomes a play-in game, and they can't have that. And then it'd be a weird situation, because even if they lose or win this one and they play Dallas, if they lose to Dallas, they might have to turn around and play them anyway in the first round. Let's say they beat Dallas, and that drops Dallas to 4 or 3 and moves them up to 6 or 5. They would have to play Dallas. There's a really good chance that we're going to see Dallas and Philly again in the playoffs. Like, there's a pretty decent chance we might see that, depending on seeding. So we'll see after the Washington game where they lie. But this should be a good win for Philly, man. They should be able to put it on Washington. Washington's defense last week looked horrific. I mean, run game, passing game, it doesn't matter, man. Whatever you wanted to do against Washington, the Cowboys were able to do last week. I expect Philly to have similar success, not quite as much. I don't expect Washington to lose by damn near 50 again, but I do expect Philly to go ahead and take care of business, go into Washington, get a win. Like I said, cement themselves into the playoff spot and get ready for a playoff push, something that at one point in time seemed like it was impossible for Philly. At one point in time, I think everyone would agree that Philly looked like they were just dead in the water, man. They were not going to be a playoff team. Again, lack of depth in the NFC probably let Philly hang around. But again, man, 8-7 is 8-7. A winning team is winning team. Again, what I've been saying all year long, winning is not easy to do in the NFL. So shout out to Philly for being a winning team. They win this when they move to 9-7. That's a pretty damn good year. That's the best you could possibly expect from a brand new coach, a team that looked so bad last year with basically the same roster. Nothing really changed for Philly in terms of roster goes. It was just a different culture and a different head coach, and Jalen Hurts finally being the guy. He didn't have to take over in the middle of the season or take over towards the end of the season. He got the reins, and he's been keeping them afloat, man. 7 wins. He's 7-7 himself, so pretty decent there for Jalen Hurts. He wins this one. He moves to 8-7, with a team with him. So good on Jalen Hurts, man. I've always been a big Jalen Hurts fan. I'm impressed by him. I think a lot of people are ready to just write him off, and even Philly, it looked like they were always, looking for a possible quarterback upgrade. But I would like to see if I'm a Philly fan, if I'm Sirianni, I want to see this play out with Jalen Hurts. I think they might have something. I don't know if he's ever going to be an elite type guy, but if his ceiling is like a Dak Prescott level type guy, play it out and see what you got. Not saying his, first year as a starter was similar to Dak's first year as a starter. He's, rookie of the year, and they were the number one team in the NFC. Dak's rookie year was a magical season almost. So not saying that that's it, but kind of, here's the thing. If you have a guy who's in the top 15, or you have potential to be in the top 15 of quarterbacks instead of the bottom 15, you don't keep looking. Because if there was just a bunch of top 10, top 15 quarterbacks out there, then there would be no disparity between any of the quarterbacks. The reason why Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and these guys look so much better is because they are so much better, because they don't come out very often. These are once in a lifetime type of players. These are generational talents, man. These guys just don't grow on trees. You don't just find an Aaron Rodgers and a Patrick Mahomes every draft class. It doesn't happen. So if you have somebody like Jalen Hurts, you feel like, hey, man, if everything goes the right way and he gets comfortable and confident in the system, and we can, Sirianni can tailor the system to Jalen Hurts, and maybe we can have him be a consistent top 15 quarterback, whether you want to do it by numbers or by just what you see on the field, whether you just watch him and say, hey, this guy plays like one of the top 15 guys in the league, or his numbers, whether it's QBR, passing yards, turnover ratio, whatever the hell you define a top 15 quarterback as. If he's doing that and he's being the 14th, 15th best quarterback in the league, if he has the potential to be that, not saying that's what he is now, but if he has potential to be that, you have to let it ride with him. It's not like you are paying him all this money and it's like cut your losses and do something else. You have to see where that goes. You have to. Again, unless you can get like an Aaron Rodgers or someone like that, but a Russell Wilson, then I understand. But if let's bring in Minshew, let's keep looking, let's keep trying to see if we can bring something, that doesn't make any sense. Trust in Jalen Hurts, and I'm glad to see that the Eagles are doing it. Fuck the Eagles, but I'm glad to see that they're doing it, and I'm glad to see Sirianni doing it. I'm glad to see that Jalen Hurts is starting to get some of that trust and starting to get some of the love from Philly fans themselves. There's a point in time where a lot of Philly fans, man, they were like, Hurts sucks. We need somebody different. Now, a completely different tune, and now he's pretty good. He'll be all right. You'll see. He's going to be a really good quarterback. I'm just glad for him. Cardinals, Cowboys, desperation mode for the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Absolute desperation mode. And you see their losses. They've lost 3 in a row. They have Dallas coming up, who has now won 5 in a row. So you have 4 in a row. So you have a clear desperation mode for them. But you see the impact that one guy makes, the impact that DeAndre Hopkins makes on this team. And it's an impact that guys have. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. The impact of a true number 1 wide receiver. There was a year for Dallas a few years ago when we made the trade for Amari Cooper, right? Dallas Cowboys made a trade to the Oakland Raiders at the time. I know the Vegas Raiders at the time, Oakland Raiders. They made a trade to acquire Amari Cooper because their offense looked absolutely god-awful. Dak Prescott was having the worst year of his career. The offense was stagnant. They couldn't get anything going. And then they bring in Amari Cooper, and just day and night, literally overnight, boom, offense looks great again. Any team that has a true number one receiver, what do I mean by true number one? It means that level of guy. The guy that's just, you're not guarding him one-on-one. There's nobody out there that can just stop these guys one-on-one. It's the Amari Coopers, it's the Devontae Adams, it's the DeAndre Hopkins, it's the Stephon Diggs. Like, there's a list of guys who are true number ones, and they make a great impact around the league on offense, especially the way it's tailored, especially the way you want to get guys into zones, into pockets, and the way guys are scheming, the passing schemes that we're seeing here with the McVays and LaFleurs and all these guys. When you have a true number one, man, it makes all the difference in the world, and they are suffering bad without DeAndre Hopkins. And for Cowboys, let's say Dallas goes out and wins this game, stays on the streak, moves to 5 wins, 6 wins. I don't know how many games in a row it is at this point, but if they win this game, all of a sudden they enter the playoffs as the hottest team in the NFL, man. If they can win this game, they'll enter the hottest. Well, what do you mean the hottest team? You just said the Cardinals lost a couple games in a row. They beat Washington, they beat the Saints, they beat these teams that aren't really good. No, I get it. But if you win a bunch of games in a row and then beat a 10-win team in Arizona, and then if they were able to beat a 9-win team in Philly in the last game of the season, that is going into the playoffs as the hottest team, man. Nobody else is really playing that way. Nobody else is really playing that way. And if they can do it impressively, right? This is a real test for the defense of Dallas. Now, I know Arizona's offense hasn't been looking great, but again, Taylor Heineke and Washington and the New Orleans Saints offense without Alvin Kamara and the Giants offense without Daniel Jones, even though the Cowboys defense has looked great, and you can just see, right? You don't even have to really put too much on the fact that those guys were out. You can just see what they're doing defensively and go, oh, well, that's tough to deal with regardless of who your quarterback is, regardless of whether your running back is playing or not. That's tough to deal with because of the pressure, because of Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, because Trevon Diggs continues to pull down interceptions, because his defense continues to create turnovers. Like, you can see why they're good, but you can't compare those quarterbacks that I talked about, right? The Heinekes, the freaking Glennons, who did the Saints have? The Saints didn't have Ian Book that game. They had homeboy from BYU. This is how memorable Taysom Hill. This is how memorable Taysom Hill is. They had Taysom Hill. Those guys are not compared to Kyler Murray. Like, we have to give Kyler Murray his credit, even though Arizona has been struggling offensively as well. Primarily, they've been struggling offensively. Kyler Murray's still an upgrade from those guys, and he presents a lot more problems than those guys do because he has the ability to throw and run, and he can still make some crazy plays happen. So Dallas's defense is going to be tested. This isn't going to be a game where you look at it and go, man, we can hold them to 6-7 points. Like, no, they're going to threaten, and they're in desperation mode. I know this is a game for the Cardinals. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, you're like, we have to. I said last week they had to. This week they absolutely freaking have to be on the right spot. Even if that means they lose this game, their offense has to look a lot better. Their defense has to maintain. They can't let Dallas come out and put up, 30, 40 points on them. They have to look like a team that is at least headed back in the right direction, right? Their trajectory has been up, down, out. Where do you want to go from the playoffs? Right now, you're on that downward trajectory. The playoffs are here. Where do you want to go? Right? You can get back up. You'll never be as high as you were at one point in the season where you're the number one team in the NFC. But at the very least, you can at least have some confidence going into the playoffs. You cannot come out here and just offensively look incompetent, look like you cannot get anything going, and then defensively have issues with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense, and then get, lose by 10, 15, 20 points. You can't have a double-digit loss coming into this game. Feel like it's something I talked about with Cincinnati. The only difference is Cincinnati's coming off of wins where Arizona's coming off of losses. But it's very similar in the case of like, hey, man, if we go out and get smacked by this team, especially at home, well, the Cardinals actually in Dallas, but if we go out and get smacked by this team, you know, cool, we made the playoffs. We've lost 4 in a row. We just got beat down by the number 2 seed, right? Like, that would be not only the reaction of the fans, but you got to imagine that in the locker room, man, you need a confidence builder. On the flip side, you beat Dallas. You go into Dallas and beat them. You're like, okay, we're good. We're good. This is how we should be playing. This is what we should expect. Everyone thinks we're dead. We're not dead. We're going to go to the playoffs. We're going to shock everybody's ass. We're going to play like the team we were 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we're going to get this thing done. That's what's on the line for Arizona right now. Next game that I want to talk about, Vikings at Green Bay. I talked about that already. Vikings are doomed. They're freaking doomed, man. Old Uncle COVID got them, put them in that Charles Oliveira rear naked choke. As soon as the Vikings said, hey, man, there's a chance, let's go out there, let's get it done. We have to win this game. We beat Green Bay already. If we beat them again, we can get... Took their back. Charles Oliveira style. Just took the back, put them in that rear naked, and that's it for them, man. That's it. No Kirk Cousins, no Adam Thielen. That loss to Detroit, that really hurt them bad, man. They never recover from that loss to Detroit. That was the end. You guys, if you recall, however many episodes that was ago, I said San Francisco, Minnesota, those are going to be the teams that round out that 6 and 7 spot in the NFC. I really felt like Minnesota was better than the teams I mentioned, Philly and New Orleans and Atlanta and all these other teams. I thought Minnesota was that much better. I just really did. And that loss to Detroit, now they've had a terrible schedule. Like, they have had a rough schedule. I know they play against the Lions twice. I know they play against the Bears twice, but they also play against Green Bay twice, and they've played some tough teams. Look at the teams they've lost to. It's not easy wins. The only one that should have been is that Detroit game. That's the one that's going to haunt them. Because even if they had beat Detroit and even if they lost to Green Bay, they could still win last game of the season and still make the playoffs if Philly were to lose to Dallas at the end of the season. But because of that loss to Detroit, I just don't see any way in how they win this game. And not only this game, but they would have to win both games, and they would need San Francisco or Philly to drop a game or two. So it's tough to see them, man. I think the Packers, very good spot for Green Bay right now. It looks like they're going to hold on to that number 1 seed, go into the playoffs. It looks like everything's going to go through Green Bay, which is dreadful if you're in the NFC. Now, I know Tampa Bay did it. I know Tampa Bay went to Green Bay last year and won. But that was different. I'm talking about Green Bay in Lambeau Field with a packed out stadium, all the crowd noise in the world, going nuts with that fucking snow and that slush, and it's 20-something degrees, and your eyelashes are getting stuck together, and your hands are cold as hell, and you're trying to loosen up, and you're like, damn, man, I play in the dome. I play in LA. I'm not used to this. Aaron Rodgers is used to that. Green Bay is used to that. That's a tough place for the NFC to go through. If the NFC went through Dallas, if the NFC went through Arizona, if the NFC went through these places, yeah, it's a boost for those teams. But it's not dreadful for the teams visiting. Might actually be nice for those players. They're like, hey, shit, I get to go to Arizona. Right? Let's say Green Bay had to travel to Arizona. And Aaron Rodgers would be like, shit, it's going to be cool, man. It's gonna be nice and fresh in there. It's gonna be great. Receivers, everybody, oh man, I'll get my joints loosened up. It's gonna be nice. I have to deal with the crowd noise, and I don't have to deal with the crowd, but conditions are gonna be cool. It's gonna be lovely to play in that weather. But for these teams that have to travel, especially the Arizona and the LAs and the Dallas and all these teams that ain't used to that, ain't used to this weather, man. For them to have to travel to Green Bay, whew, Tampa to have to travel to Green Bay, this is tough for those teams, right? We're not talking about the Giants, Philly, all these teams that like, hey, even if we travel to Green Bay, the weather's not too crazy. We're used to it. We live in it. The teams at the top right now, LA, Tampa Bay, Dallas, like Arizona, these teams aren't used to that. They don't play in that weather. Maybe once a season. Dallas hasn't played in that weather. Not one time. So the fact that the NFC is going to have to run through Green Bay sitting pretty. What a crazy story, right? Think about everything Aaron Rodgers has gone through this year, right? He gets COVID, the whole I'm immunized, whatever the fuck people took that as, and all the stuff he took, he came on the Pat McAfee show and explained it, and he kind of doubled down and was kind of like, hey, man, like, it is what it is. And he's been an advocate for people that, you know, people that aren't completely bought into the vaccine, and people that feel like there's treatment plans and there's other things. He's been an advocate for that, and people hate him for it. The majority of the country is going to flip on you. Joe Rogan's in that boat, and then he uses Joe Rogan's name. Anybody who uses Joe Rogan's name, you get thrown into that category as anti-vaxxer and all that. And Aaron Rodgers has gone through all of this. Meanwhile, he should be the MVP of the league. He should be the MVP of the league. Will he be? We'll see. We'll see how political the NFL is. We always say keep politics out of the NFL. We'll see how political the NFL is. In my opinion, Aaron Rodgers ain't winning no MVP. I don't care what Aaron Rodgers does. He's not going to be the MVP of the league because of that stuff that went on. They're not going to let it happen, man. Even on the Pat McAfee show, he said, hey, you realize that you're never going to win MVP again, right? Because of this. And Aaron Rodgers looked at him and he was like, that's a pretty accurate statement. That's pretty accurate. He ain't going to win another MVP. But think about all that, all the stuff that he went through, right? Everybody kind of turning on him, and Aaron Rodgers is selfish. Everyone always thought you were selfish. Now you prove how much of a selfish prick you are. All of those things that went on. The injured toe, and everybody kind of waiting for Aaron Rodgers to fall. Even now you see it constantly. Well, he's going to get to the NFC Championship and lose like he does all the time. All the negativity you see on Aaron. The whole, he may not even be in Green Bay. They're trying to trade him. He's asking for a trade. They don't want to trade him. What's going on with his contract? They renew it. He's going to be gone. Everyone thinks he's going to be gone. How crazy would it be through all of that? Aaron Rodgers wins another Super Bowl. Wouldn't it be crazy if Aaron Rodgers' second Super Bowl is this season through all this? Wouldn't that be the most Aaron Rodgers thing? Wouldn't that be so like Aaron Rodgers to be like, hey, you want to know when I'm going to get my second Super Bowl? When it comes through a year that I have to give the middle finger to everybody. That's going to be the cherry on. That's going to be it's been a bunch of little tiny middle fingers. Winning a Super Bowl would be the massive middle finger that comes up in the middle. The biggest fuck you at the end of the season to everybody that's turned and hates Aaron Rodgers now this year. Browns Steelers, last game of the week. Both teams would need a lot to happen. It's tough to see either one of those teams, especially being in the AFC. Like I said, where there's a bunch of 8 and 7 teams, a bunch of 8-win teams right now. It would be tough to see how Browns and Steelers get in. But this could possibly be if you're wondering why are you talking about them, then you're only going over teams that have a position, or it's a kind of a big game for one of the teams and something going on. It could be Big Ben's last game in Heinz Field, and that's important. That means a lot. That means a lot, man. It could be Big Ben's last time in Heinz Field. Think about everything Ben Roethlisberger has done. This could be it. This could be it for him. He's been kind of alluding and kind of hinting to this being the last of his season. They play on the road the week after. Next week, they play on the road. This is his last game in Heinz Field. There's going to be a crazy standing ovation. They're going to be ruckus. They're going to be chanting Ben Roethlisberger. Thank you, Ben. All of that stuff I expect. What a freaking legacy. What a career Ben Roethlisberger has had. He has been such a great player to root for in Pittsburgh. I know he's had some stuff that, people aren't really too hype about, and some people might have some opinions about him. Whatever. At the end of the day, I think that if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, man, he's one of the legends. He's one of the greatest. How do you not pay your respects for Ben Roethlisberger? How do you not treat him as such? I think you got to give the thank you Bens and everything he's done for that city and for that team. And Baker could be, this could be Baker's last time playing in Pittsburgh either. Like, Baker's probably done in Cleveland. Let's be honest. If Baker comes out and has another poor performance, if Baker does not finish these last 2 games of the season out strong, Baker Mayfield could be done in Cleveland as well. So this could be the last time we see Baker. Well, not the last time we see Baker in a Cleveland uniform. Obviously, they have 1 game left. But this could be, the very end of Baker in Cleveland and the very end of Big Ben in the NFL in general. So a big game there. Just kind of a legacy game for Big Ben. Wouldn't that be a great way for Big Ben to end his legacy? Right? Because like I said, the Browns and the Steelers, both of them slim chances. Steelers, really, really slim chance to make the playoffs. The Browns, a little bit of hope, right? They win the next 2 games. They just need a few of those other teams to lose. And they can still find a way. They can still possibly get to the 7th spot in the playoffs. But wouldn't that be a way for Big Ben to end his legacy is to put the nail in the coffin to beat the Browns and end their playoff hopes. That would be such a Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers moves to be like, no, we're the ones after last year when you guys beat the shit out of us in the playoffs and we're talking all that shit. We're going to beat you and make sure that you have no chance to make the playoffs this year. What a legacy for Ben, man. Ben's always been such a favorite of mine. I've loved the way Big Ben plays. Everyone kind of has this memory of Big Ben over the last couple of years where he can't move and, he just looks really old and just see the arm strength and everything really isn't there at times. It looks like he should have retired 2-3 years ago. But, man, when you go back to the years that Pittsburgh was winning the Super Bowls, yeah, they were doing it off of defense. Yeah, it was a run game. But when Big Ben had to come through in the clutch, dude, he came through. The breaking tackles, staying alive, extending plays, making the throws when you need to make the throw. Like, he was a freaking magic man. He was a wild dude. He played with so much heart, so much grit. He was the city. Man, it's Pittsburgh. It's in him. Like, he had that type of blue collar, that tough, that roughneck type of style of play. I loved Pittsburgh, man. I mean, I loved Big Ben. I loved him for Pittsburgh. I think he's been tremendous, man. I think he has embodied that place. So thank you, Big Ben. Last time we're going to see him in Heinz Field, I'm assuming, who the hell knows, maybe Big Ben comes at the end of the year and says, I'm not retiring, I'm going to come back again. He should retire. He should definitely retire. I hope he retires on top. I hope he retires with a win in Heinz Field. I'm rooting for you, Big Ben. Game picks, to get through them real quick, a bunch of Road Warrior picks for me. I know I'm over an hour. I'm trying to get this thing done. Road Warrior picks this week. I picked a bunch of road teams. First and foremost, Buccaneers over the Jets. I got the Bucs -13 on the road against New York. I know it's a huge spread. I think the Buccaneers are just going to go in there and handle business. I think Tom wants to be efficient. This isn't one of those cases where, hey, let's go up. If we have the lead, let's run the game out. Let's just try to get the win. I think Tom Brady and this offense really want to make their mark. They want to be operating at the highest level possible going into the playoffs. What better way to do it than to beat the Jets by more than 13? Give me the Buccaneers there. Next on the list, Eagles -4.5 against Washington. The spread itself, the way Washington lost, I just cannot bet on Washington covering a 4.5-point spread against anybody, let alone a winning team in Philly. Philly goes into Washington. I think they win by at least a touchdown. I think it's a 2-score game, but I think they win by at least 7. So give me the 4.5 there. Rams at Baltimore, 5.5-point spread there. I haven't seen any updates on Lamar. I think if he would have played, we would see a little bit more from him. But even if he plays, 5.5 isn't crazy. 5.5 isn't, even if he plays, I could see LA winning by 5.5, so I like it. But I'm going to bet on this one. This is kind of one of those where I'm banking on him not playing, to be honest. And if he doesn't play, I do like them for sure at 5.5. Rams on the road, 5.5 over Baltimore. Lions on the road. I'm taking the Detroit Lions as well. Why? Because it's 7.5 in Seattle. The whole Pete Carroll's recent comments about maybe we start over, maybe we have to tear this thing down and start from scratch, and who knows what's going on with Russell Wilson and his future and what their relationship is like, and so many things going on in Seattle and for Detroit. When is the last time Detroit got blown out? Now, I hope Goff is able to play. I think he's out. I think Bull has to play, but man, I'm rooting for MCDC. I'm really rooting for him to get it done. I hope Dan Campbell can somehow get another game. I think the Lions lose, but I think it's another game that they lose on the last drive, or they have a chance, and it's like what the Lions have been all year. Those moments where you're like, come on, like, we need this victory. We have a chance. We've been playing so well. And then they lose in the last minute or two. I think that's going to happen for the Lions. I think they cover 7.5. Seattle, I think, wins by 6. I think the hook saves me. Even if Seattle wins by 7, I love the fact that I get the hook on this 7.5. Give me the Lions. And then the Chargers, the only home team I picked this week. Chargers -7.5 against Denver. Again, no Teddy Bridgewater. Yes, Drew Lock is playing. I'm not sold on Drew Lock, and I think the Chargers, especially that offense, has to correct it. I think they're going to come in pissed off from last week. Last week was an embarrassing loss for the Chargers. Because of that, it made me hard to bet on them because I was like, damn, man, they really, really let me down. They really disappointed, but I think they disappointed themselves, and I think they let themselves down, and because of that, I think they're going to come in, take care of business, try to prove a point to the rest of the AFC that, hey, don't let last week let you think that that's what we are. We're going to show you what we are this week, and they're going to beat Denver on the road, at home, -7.5. Give me the Chargers. That wraps up the picks. Those 5 picks Bucks, Eagles, Rams, Lions, Chargers. Give me those 5 teams. Put them in a parlay. Make yourself some money. I'm going 5 for 5 this week. I promise you, we're going 5 for 5. I was 4 or 5 last week. We're going 5 of 5 this week. That wraps it up, guys. I will see you back on Monday. We're going to recap a little bit what we saw in Week 17, probably get into playoff scenarios a little bit on Monday, but we'll push that more for Friday. Monday, what you have to look forward to is an MMA-heavy podcast. Like I said, I want to structure it more. Mondays, MMA Mondays, NBA Wednesdays, football Fridays. That's what we're doing. I'll sprinkle in some other stuff. Again, if a good story comes up, I'm not going to not talk about it. Right? I'm not going to say, oh man, something huge happened on a Sunday, but I'm going to wait till Friday to talk about it because it's football Friday. No. I'm going to talk a little bit about football or any sport, anything that is important pops up. I'll talk about it on the next podcast. But overall, the meat and potatoes, the majority of the hour or whatever long the podcast is, the majority of it is going to be MMA on Mondays, NBA on Wednesdays, and then NFL on Fridays. But that's it, man. Episode 41 is a wrap. Thank you guys again. As always, man, you guys mean the world to me. I'll see you on Monday. Peace.